My mic was muted. Hello and welcome to more math homework help. I am Miss Moore and I am back for another Wednesday homework help. So if you need help with homework at any point during this broadcast, I want you to look in the description of this video and submit your questions on the form in the description of this video, okay? So once again, go into the description of the video and look at that Google form, type in your questions there, and I will answer it as I do the live stream. Okay, so we did get a question in today. Unfortunately, they were unable to join us in the live stream, but that's all right. The question was about slope. They were struggling with slope, y-intercepts, functions and relations, all that. I probably won't get through everything. However, we will start with slope. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so here is a graph, obviously. And when we talk about slope, so let's start with slope. Okay, you may have heard of a ski slope. That's probably about it. But a slope just tells you how steep a line is, right? So think about walking up a hill, right? If I was just walking on the regular, like, sidewalk, this is not steep at all. It's flat, right? So that's a very flat line. There's really no steepness to it whatsoever, okay? But what if I get to a hill or a mountain that was like this big, right? This steep, okay? And you might have to like hold on to something to get up the mountain, but it probably wouldn't be horrible. What if you go up a mountain that's like here, right? Now here you actually would need those little like hanger thingies. I'm not a climber, so I have no idea the terms. But basically, right, this line is going to be steeper than the pink line. Okay, hi, we have a viewer. All right, so this green line is going to be steeper than the pink line, right? Okay, so, and then both of those are going to be a lot steeper than that flat line, right? So when we talk about slope, this is the slope, right? How steep are these lines? So if I were climbing a mountain, I want to know number-wise, how steep is this mountain? So slope tells you the number for how steep that mountain is, right? Now, if I was going straight up and down, can I even climb a mountain less like this? No, you can't. It would be impossible, right? You'd have to be Spider-Man to climb a wall like that, right? So we call this no slope, okay? Because it's almost impossible to climb up a wall. Now, some people have done it, and we call them Spider-Man, but most people cannot. So we just say this has no slope because you'd be out of your mind to try to climb that. Okay, so now let me show you how to find that number value. Okay, so this is about an 8th grade topic. We're getting into some algebra here. So let's do it. So say I have a line, and I'm going to put these tick marks here. So we have 1, 2, I'm just going to skip everyone. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, on this side of 0 is -1, -2, and so on, right? Okay. If we go up, we get to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. My things are sloppy. My numbers, 4 numbers. Okay, and then down. Why does it keep making my 4 like that? Okay, and then when I go down, it's -1. Most of you guys know this from probably 5th or 6th grade, the coordinate system, right? Hopefully. But if you don't, this is just how it looks. Okay, you have your X and you have your Y. I don't know. Okay, you have your X and you have your Y value, your Y axis. Okay, so your X axis, everything goes from left to right. Your Y axis, everything goes up and down. All right, so if they ask you to find the slope of a line, and they say you see a line and it passes through points 1, 3, and it also passes through points 3, 5. Okay, so grab your ruler. Now, anytime you're working with slopes, you're gonna need a ruler. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my handy dandy cool ruler right here, and I'm gonna spin it around so I can make this line. All right. And here we go. So it does pass through some other points, right? We can see it touches 0, 2, it touches -2, 0, and so on, right? So there's a lot of points that it passes through. Okay, if we want to know how steep the line is, we take 2 points, any 2 points whatsoever, because the slope of a line never changes. Whatever that number is for the slope, it never changes. So you can pick any 2 points to find the slope of the line, how steep this line is. Okay, so let's get a point. I'm going to choose, I'm just coloring this on top so you can see. I'm going to choose -2, 0. So I'm going to choose this one right here. And, oh, sorry. I'm going to circle it instead of putting that. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one right here. I'll put it in blue. And I'm going to choose this one right here. And this is, if you look at your X value, that's 3. And if you go up, we have 5. So 3, 5. All right, let's do it. Now we put arrows at the end of our lines because they do go on forever and ever and ever. Like actually a mountain. I was going to say like a mountain, but a mountain stops. All right, so let's look at these 2 points. Okay. So the person who completed the form and submitted this question asked me to go over rise over run. What does that mean? Okay. Rise over run. And these are some like fancy words that people came up with for slope. So this is going to be the first one that I go over when finding the slope. Okay. So most math teachers teach it this way, rise over run. Okay, and what do they mean by that? Well, let's start with rise. Think about what rise means. When you think about rise or rising somewhere, you're going up, okay? So I start at this bottom blue line and I go up. How many spaces do I need to go up to get to where this other blue dot is? Okay, so let's count. We're starting here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We just went up, or we rose 5 spaces. So when they say rise, they're saying how much did you go up? I went up 5 spaces. Okay. Now, when they say run, how do we run? We don't run upwards, right? We run to the left, we run to the right, okay? So when they say run, they mean how many spaces to the right or left is that other point, okay? So they're just asking you, how far up do you go and how far to the right do you go to get to that other point, okay? So you start at one point and you make your way to the other point, okay? So let's do it. I go 1, let me use a different color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we went from -2 to 3, and this was also 5 spaces. Okay, so what is the slope of my line? 1. Okay, so 5 over 5 or 5 divided by 5 equals 1. Your slope is 1. Okay, so that's how you would do it looking at a graph. Take 2 points. So let's do it again. Take 2 points on the graph. Sorry. Let me do this. Okay. So you're going to take 2 points on the graph, and here we go. How far does it take me to get from one place to the next? All right. So if I'm at 0, or if I'm at 2, where is the next dot, the next green dot? How far do I go up? I just went up 1 space. So my rise is 1. That's how much I rose, 1 spot. That's it. And then my run, again, we run to the left, we run to the right. So which way do I go to get to the green dot? To the right. And how many spaces? 1. So again, my run is 1, and it's just 1 divided by 1. So I just wanted to show you that no matter what 2 points we chose, I'm still going to end up with 1. My slope is still going to be 1. It doesn't matter what 2 points I chose, I'm getting 1. Okay, so I wanted to show you the slope never changes whatsoever. Now, what if we didn't have a graph? What if they just told us, find the slope of a line that passes through points 2, 0 and 3, 5? What if they just asked us? We didn't see this graph at all. This graph wasn't there, okay? All they told us was find the slope. What would the slope of that line be that passes through these 2 points on a graph, okay? Now, you could take the time to make the graph if you want to, or you can just think about it, okay? With my y's, my y is going up and down. Your y is your rise. So if I'm starting at 0 and I need to get to 5, how many spaces do I go up? From 0 to 5, what would you do, right? 5 minus 0 is 5. So we would subtract the y values, right? And then how far to the right or left did I go? So I'm going from -2 to 3. So again, I can do 3 minus -2 to figure out how many spaces I went to the right. Okay, so if they didn't give us a graph, you can absolutely graph it yourself and do the same thing we just did, or you can realize, okay, to get from this point to the next point, I need to figure out the distance, okay? I need to figure out 3 minus -2, and if hopefully you know your integer rules, and you can see you have a double negative, and a double negative is a positive. So this becomes 3 plus 2, which is 5 and 5/5, or 5 divided by 5. Once again, we get 1. Okay, so you could use a graph to find the slope, or you can just subtract the y values for your run. How much did we go up to get to this point? And then divide it by the x value, subtracting the x value. So let's do it again. All right, so let's make our graph 1, 2, 3. And as I'm drawing the graph, if you have any math questions, go ahead and complete the form in the description of this video so that as you're watching, I can also help answer your questions as well. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Let's see if I can go any higher. 6, 7. Okay. And let's do -1 and -7. Okay. This marker is giving me a hard time today, y'all. Okay. Now, let's say the line is here. So we have -3, 4. And we have 1, -2. Okay, so let's grab our ruler. Again, when you are working with graphs, hopefully, I'm sure your teachers have you use a ruler. This is a cool ruler that Microsoft has on their whiteboard if you ever want to use it. Okay. Let me alter it a little bit. And here we are. All right. And here's our line. It passes through the point. It passes through point -3, 4. So that first blue dot on the left is -3, 4. And the second blue dot on the right is 1, -2. All right. So again, we have several ways we can find the slope. One thing I do want to point out, the slope doesn't always go up. Remember, there's another side of the mountain, right? So you have one side that goes up and another side that goes down. When you have a slope that goes up the mountain, this is positive. It's always easy to go up the mountain. We call this a positive slope. No biggie. I mean, you know, it might take you some time to get up the mountain, but going down is scary, at least for me. So when you have a line that goes like this and you're going down the mountain, we call that a negative slope. Okay, so as long as it's going up, that is a positive slope. So if you ever heard anybody talk about positive and negative slope, that's all they meant. I'm going up the mountain. I'm happy. I don't know what's coming. I'm positive. Once you go down the mountain, you remember how far it took you to go up. You remember how steep it was. You know, it's not a good thing going down the mountain. So it's negative. It's going to be a negative slope. So is this line right here a positive slope or a negative slope? Tell me in the chat. Is this going to be a positive slope or is it a negative slope? Positive slope or negative slope? So I can see, and I hope you can too, that this is going down. I'm going down the mountain. And it is a negative slope. If you typed it in the chat, it might be delayed. So, but yes, if you said negative slope, great job. Okay, so this is going down the mountain. And this is a negative slope. So when we find the rise over run, you can still start with the lowest point. You don't necessarily have to start with the one that's on the left, okay? But if you did, remember, rise is just talking about your Y value, okay? But I like to connect the words with something you recognize, right? So rise means you're going up, okay? So let's start at the lowest point and go up. So I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I went up 6 spaces. Okay, that is your rise. We rose, or went up 6 spaces. Okay, now what's your run? I run to the left, I run to the right. Which way do I have to run to get to the next point? To the left. So how many spaces? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here I have gone 4 spaces. So my run is 4. My slope is rise over run, or rise divided by run. We have an improper fraction. Well, reduce it first. We usually will leave it alone. We won't change it to a mixed number. It's rare that you will see a mixed, I don't think anybody has a mixed slope, mixed number slope. Okay, so we just leave it like that. Slope equals 3/2. Okay, so when we talk about slope, when we talk about rise or run, we want to know how steep this line is. How far is it? Is the climb or going back down, right? So what is the distance from the bottom to the top, or the top to the bottom? Here, it was 6 spaces. And what was the distance when I went left? It was 4 spaces. And so 6 divided by 4 is 3/2. You could change to decimal if you want, but usually we make our lives easy and we leave it there. So that is rise over run. That is slope. One more time, slope tells you how steep a line is, and here's the number value for slope. Okay, so that's how you would find it. Now let's do it without the graph. Okay, so we have points -3, 4, and 1, -2. So if they just told us, okay, we have this line that goes through points -3, 4, and I just forgot it that fast. 1, -2. Find the slope. Again, your Y values tell you how far up and down you go, right? That is your rise. Okay, so if I'm starting, I'm just going to look at my Y values here. That don't want to work with me. It's okay. Okay, I'm going to look at my Y value. I have -2 and 4. Okay, what's the lowest one? -2, right? So I'm going from -2, I'm starting at -2 and going up to 4. How far away is that? How would I find the distance, right? If I was going from 0 to 4, it would be 4 spaces. How do I know? Because 4 minus 0 is 4. So instead of 0, I have -2. So to find how far that is, I'm going to subtract. Again, we have a double negative, which is a positive. So this is 4 plus 2, which is 6. So my rise is 6. Your X values, we're going right to left, is your run. So if I started with 4 for my Y, I have to start with -3 to be consistent. You can't do 4 minus -2 and then try to do 1 minus -3. It's not going to work. You have to keep it in the same order. So -4 minus 1. Okay. So when I'm subtracting fractions, integers, I start at -3. I go down 1, I'm at -4. Okay. So my run is -4. And we reduce it. Wait a minute, I should have had a negative slope over here. I just realized that. Okay, because we went to the left over here, that's why it was negative. So my apologies. Remember, we said it was a negative slope. So it should have been a negative 3/2. Okay, so we went up. So that 6 was positive, but we went to the left. We went toward the negative direction. So it was a negative 4 because we went to the left. Okay, if we would have gone to the right and down, so if we went down this way, because we were going down, it's negative, and then to the right, it would have been positive. We would still get the same thing. Okay, so it doesn't matter which direction you went, whether you went up or down to see how many spaces they went up or down. Just know that if you go down, it's a negative. If you go up, it's a positive. If you go to the left, it's negative. If you go to the right, it's positive. So just keep that in mind. All right, so reduce it. 2 goes into both of these. We still get 3/2. So again, you could draw the graph and just count how far up they are from one another, how far to the left or right you have to go, and then divide by the 2. Or you can just say, well, I know I'm just finding the distance between these 2 points, right? From here to here, how far is that? And I count up, that's 6 spaces, okay? And then I go to the left, how many spaces? 4, because I went left, it's a negative 4. So you can just count, right? Or you just know distance, how far away is it? To find distance, we subtract. All right, now let's go back here. We have our slope. So we have our pretty slope. Here our slope was 1. Okay, so in this example, our slope was 1. The formula for slope is y equals mx plus b. Our slope, they call it a slope-intercept formula. And that was the second part of your question. What do they mean by slope-intercept? Okay. I wasn't sure if you meant y-intercept or slope-intercept in general, but this is an equation for slope-intercept. It says y equals mx plus b. M, so in algebra, don't ask me how they came up with M representing slope. S would have made more sense to me. You know, I don't know. Maybe they were thinking mountain. I don't know. But M is your slope. And B is your y-intercept. Again, how they come up with these letters, I don't know. You know, somebody said y-intercept. You know, B would be great to represent y-intercept. And M, slope. That's what it is. Okay. So I know it might be confusing. Like, how did they get this M and where did this B come from? You know, it's just people. We just come up with stuff. It's just random. All right. So M is slope. So here our slope is 1. Easy peasy. Now, how do we get B? How do we figure out the y-intercept? Well, first things first, what is a y-intercept? When they say y-intercept, they're saying, when does the line touch the y-axis? So let me erase this point. Okay. When does this line touch the y-axis? At what point? And that is called the y-intercept. So that yellow part that I just put right there, right? It's a part of the line. And at what point on the line does it touch the y-intercept? We see the y-intercept is this yellow point right here. The y-intercept is this yellow point right here because that's where this line touches the y-axis, okay? That's where this line right here touches the y-axis. Oh, okay. So it touches it at 0.02. So that is the y-intercept. So they're just asking, when does the line intercept the y-axis? That's what they got it from. When does it touch the y-axis? Okay. All right. So how would we find that if we didn't see a graph? If we see the graph, it's easy to see, okay, it touches the line at 0, 2. My y-intercept is my y value. So here, your y-intercept is 2. Because the x is always going to be 0. Okay, so your y-intercept is the y value. It is 2. Okay, so when you write your slope-intercept formula, you would put y equals, in place of m, you would put 1, and in place of b, you would put 2. Okay, now, if you are in Algebra 1 or ever since 6th grade, really, you should know that we don't write 1x. We just put x because 1 times x is just x, okay? So if you wrote y equals 1x plus 2, your teacher would mark you correct. But just know we don't usually put a 1 in front of the x. We just leave it as x, okay? 1x is just x. All right, let's do it again. Okay, so if I have a line and I'm here at point 1, 0, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5, 3, 2, 3. Okay, let me put these in. 1, 5. Okay, let's get our ruler. And again, while I'm doing that, if you have any math questions whatsoever that you need assistance with, go ahead and hit the, go ahead and complete the form in the description of this video. Anything that you want to go over, go ahead and put it in the description of this video. All right. So I'm going to draw the line and we're going to pay attention to where it hits. Let's see. All right, it won't be perfect. I'll get as close as possible. Okay. So here we are. Where does this line touch the y-axis? Where does this line touch the y-axis? Right here. Now, if you look at my pink tick mark, this right here is -1. Okay, so it's not quite -1. It's in between 0 and -1. So I would say this is 1/2, 0, -1/2. And so my y-intercept is -1/2. It's my y value. Okay, so my y-intercept, I'm sorry, we use B for y-intercept. See how confusing that is? So we use B for y-intercept, and it is -1/2. Now, what is the slope of this line? Let's tie back in the slope. Okay, let's do rise. How far up are we going to go to get to this second point? So I'm going to start at the first point and go up. 1, 2, 3. I rose 3 spaces, and now I'm going to run. We're going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So my slope is 3/4. Okay, and so how would we write this? We would write this line as you just fill in your slope and you fill in your B value. The X and Y could be anything. It could be any point on this line. And remember, the line goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, so the reason why we don't replace the X and the Y with anything is because it could be anywhere on that line. but the slope is always going to be the same, and where it touches the y-axis is always going to be the same. That's the only thing that stays the same. Your slope of the line and where it touches the y-axis, the y-intercepts. But the x and the y, one day it's going to be 1, 0. Another day it's going to be 3, 5. Another day it's going to be 3, what does it say? 3, 1.5, and so on. So you just never know. But that's why we only fill in the slope and the y-intercept. All right, I'm going to take a quick break and see if anybody has put any other questions before I continue with slope and y-intercepts. All right. Okay. Had it on screen. What was that? I think we'll just end here. All right, welcome back to more math. So we are going to continue. So we just talked about slope, which was how steep the line is, right? So you can have a line that's super steep, kind of steep, and then like no steepness whatsoever, or just insane steep, which we call no slope, because you have to be Spider-Man to go up the wall. Okay. Now, if I'm going up the mountain, that's a good thing. It is a positive slope. Coming back down the mountain is a negative slope. You're not happy. You don't want to go home. So positive slope goes up the mountain, negative slope goes down the mountain, and then no slope. There's just no steepness whatsoever. I'm just standing on flat land. And then you have, zero slope is when you're just standing on flat land, and no slope is when it's just crazy and impossible to climb up something that's vertical. All right. So we just finished with the graphs and how to tell the y-intercept with the graph. We showed you how to, I showed you how to find the slope with a graph and the slope without a graph. Now, the final step is to find the y-intercepts when you only have 1 point and the slope. How do we find the y-intercept when I can't just see the graph? I just have 1 point and I have the slope. So let's try it. So I'm making this up. Hopefully it works. Okay. So let's say we have 1, -3, and my slope is 2. Okay, we have a positive slope. Now we go back to that y-intercept formula or equation. Y equals mx plus b. So once again, m represents your slope. Think mountain, steepness of the mountain, slope. And b is your y-intercept, or where it touches the y-axis. I don't know how you're going to remember that it's b. Maybe your teacher has come up with something, but just know that b is your y-intercept. Okay, so I have m, so I can plug that in. Okay, m is 2. My slope is 2. Now, I don't know b, but do I have an x and a y value? Oh, sorry. Yes, I do. Here's my x and here's my y. Remember, I told you that x and y can be anything. So right now, x is 1 and y is -3. I can plug these in because remember what I said before. Even though that line goes on forever, it's going to touch that y-axis 1 time. It's also going to have the same steepness throughout. So the slope's always going to be the same and the y-intercept will always be the same. So I can plug in this x and y and I will still get the same slope, even if I plugged in a completely different number, right? So let's do it. We have -3. 2 times 1 is 2. And b plus 2 is -3. What plus 2 is -3? Well, this looks like a one-step equation. If you want, you can rewrite it to make it look a little bit prettier for you with the variable on the left. Okay, I need to get rid of this plus 2, so I'm going to -2. Bring down your b. So look, we're coming right back to 6th and 7th grade math. Okay, one-step equations. -3 minus 2. Going to the left 2 spaces from -3, and I get -5. So your y-intercept, where it touches the y-axis, is at -5. Okay, so y, where is it? Oh, write your y, so plug it in now. So we have 2 for M, and we have -5 for B. Okay, so when we go back to our formula, remember we plug in M and we plug in -5. So if they say, what is B? Then this is your answer. What is your y-intercept? This is your answer. If they say, what is the equation of the line? This is your answer right here. Okay, so this is the equation of the line. B is your y-intercept. Okay, so pay attention to what they want you to find. I boxed out the equation because I'm so used to finding the equation, but I was trying to show y'all y-intercept. So don't make the same mistake I did. Okay, make sure you are boxing out the correct answers. So if they ask you to find the y-intercept, B equals -5. If they ask you to find the equation of the line, the line is y equals 2x minus 5. Okay, and that's it. That is how you find, that is the slope-intercept formula. This is how you find the slope, and this is how you find the y-intercept. And that's it. Whoop, whoop. All right. So I'm going to look, see if we got any more questions. If you're watching and you have a question, you can put it in the comments, or you can complete the form in the description of this video. All right. If that made sense to you and you're understanding slope and y-intercept better, even if you're not in 8th grade, give me something in the chat. Let me know if you're understanding it. Okay. So we have one more math homework help after this. Okay, here we go. So we have one more math homework help next week. So make sure you submit your questions ahead of time. That way I can bring you live with me. If you look at some of the past shows or episodes, you will see student guests have come on and asked questions. So if you have any questions and you want to come live with me, feel free. You just have to fill out the form beforehand so I can send you the link to join me live. And it's a lot easier for me to help you if you're right here live with me and I can hear you and you can tell me where you're getting stuck, where you're getting confused. So like this person who submitted the questions, maybe he already understood slope, right? He already knew it was the steepness of the line, right? So I didn't have to explain that, but I don't know because he's not here, right? So having you here, it helps me to know what you already know, and then I can like move you forward and help you a little bit better. But I'm happy when you send in these questions. So hopefully for our student that submitted that question, I hope that it helped you understand slope better, y-intercept better, slope-intercept form, and rise over run. All right. So next week, last week, and then this summer, I will keep you guys up to date on what's going to be happening this summer. I'll probably make the announcement next week. All right. That is all. Have a good night, guys. Bye.